It's not as complex as it is in the lives of man. Listen to what he says here. Verse 27. Which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit unto his stature? You see that? That's powerful. Listen. Thank you, my Father, my King. You know why that question is so powerful? It's because none of us have the power to instantly change our situation like that. It must be by the mercy and grace of our Heavenly Father for it to happen. If you're a poor man or a poor woman, you can't just look and say, you know, I want wealth, and it's going to instantaneously happen like that. Or vice versa. It's not going to happen that way. Listen, he says, and why take you thought for raiment, for clothing? Listen, he says, consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. He's getting them to focus on the very things that they had an issue with, the things that they were covering. Why are you worried about your clothes? Your clothes, listen to this. We're living in a time today, just like in the ancient world, where people's clothing mattered so much to them. You see this? That they would look down on others for what they actually wore. Clothing is to have its significant purpose as far as covering your body from certain elements and things of that nature, certain weather conditions, to cover your body. But what do you do when you take off the clothes? What happens when the clothes get dirty? What are you going to do? You see this? What happens when clothing tears? Or if you gain weight or lose weight and you can't wear it anymore? What do you do then? This is what he's trying to get you to see. Your life is more important. Listen. He says, consider the lilies. He's telling them, look at the nature. Look at the flowers. He says, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. We can learn so much when you can just look at creation. And you look at yourself and can see how, at certain times, how foolish we can be as mankind. When you look at creation, it's so simple. It's so serene. We can learn a lot of things if we can take time to go outside. We're living in a time now staying inside your house is not a sin. But what I'm led to say to you is that we're living in a time now where people are so conditioned to just experience life in the four corners of wherever it is that they dwell, versus actually taking the time to go out and to be able to just enjoy life. It would take away a lot of stress from a lot of people's minds if they would only take the time to just get out in the open. You see this, my family? Listen. Verse 29. He says, and yet I say unto you, he says, and yet I say unto you that even Solomon or Shalomah in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. He's comparing them to the king that they all looked up to. We all know the life of Shalomah, the things that are written in the scriptures. But he's showing how the things of nature, how we can learn. Now Solomon, he was a wise man. He wrote all those proverbs, all those wisdom literatures. But our Father, our King, is letting us see that he's helping us to see, as he's letting them to understand, that if we would only just grasp the simplicities of life, even in nature, the wisdom, please guide me, my Father, my King, the wisdom is so powerful that even the things that Shalomah wrote, he expressed many of the things that he learned from the very things that he saw regarding nature. What our Father King is doing is taking the wisdom of Shalomah and putting nature up to it to let you see how he was expounding of the beautiful things that our Father King created. It wasn't just Shalomah's wisdom, but it was the things that he learned from creation that gave him wisdom. The creation of our Heavenly Father gave him wisdom to where he could expound those beautiful writings. Listen, my family. Thank you, my Father, my King, for your wisdom. Verse 30. Wherefore, if the Almighty so clothe the grass of the field, which today is, and tomorrow is cast into the oven, shall he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? What he's expounding is those who are struggling with coveting or desiring, they have little faith. He's letting you know if our Heavenly Father can take care of nature, even though nature grows, and when you look at plants, you see how plants grow, and over time they die. Isn't that what happened with man? You see the similarities? When you read the scriptures, it talks about those of us, as far as the life of man, can be compared to how grass grows and how grass withers away. Do you see this, my family? Those of you who are led to understand, you're understanding. Those who choose not, you're not going to understand. But what he's telling them is, just like how our Father and our King can take care of creation, he's going to take care of you. Listen. Verse 31, therefore take no thought, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or wherewithal shall we be clothed? Listen, he says, for after all these things do the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knows that you have need of all these things. Listen, he says, but seek you first the kingdom of the Almighty and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Take therefore no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil or the trouble thereof. That's powerful. He's telling them, if you notice, he's expounding on what I was led to read to you regarding as far as coveting. He's telling them, don't covet the things of your neighbor, but desire the things of the kingdom. Desire our Father, his kingdom and his righteousness. And all these things, it's going to be added to you. Now, that does not mean that we only come to our Father just for money and wealth. What he's saying is, don't covet the things that people have. Desire our Heavenly Father. Desire him and his righteousness, and everything, all your needs will be taken care of. This is the key. If people would just follow what our King is expounding on regarding the Torah, the righteousness of it, you wouldn't see people out here murdering and killing people for their possessions. You wouldn't see that. Thank you, my Father, my King. Now let's going back to the Didache in the second chapter, the 3rd verse. Thank you, my Father, my King. It says here, you will not swear falsely. Now this is powerful now. You will not swear falsely, meaning that you will not, please God, my Father, my King. We're not supposed to be using foul language, but what this is talking about is when it comes to swearing falsely, meaning you would give an oath, or as we say, a promise. You would sit here and make a promise as far as our Heavenly Father is concerned, and you don't fulfill it. This is what it means by swear in this context. Do you see this? We're not supposed to have foul language, understand that. But in this context, it's speaking of that we should not make an oath or a promise regarding our Heavenly Father and we don't do it. This is what it's speaking about. So the ancient Christians, the Anointed Ones understood this. They had to learn it. And many people today, they are what they call promise breakers. They don't keep promises. Listen, go to Exodus, the 20th chapter. Go back. So we see here, it says, you will not swear falsely. Go to Exodus, the 20th chapter, please. And let's go to verse 7. It says, you shall not take the name of the Master Yahuwah, your Almighty, in vain, for the Master Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. That's powerful. And the reason why I found like he let me go here is because his name was involved in promises and covenants. And you had many people who made errors. And they would vow something and they didn't fulfill it. So this is a dangerous thing. So now let's go here so we can see his name, his authority, his characteristics, and his literal name is applied with promises. And how he was saying not to do that, not to take it in vain. Do you understand? Not to take his name in vain. Now, let's go to Leviticus, the 19th chapter. Let's look at this. Very interesting. To confirm what was read in Exodus, the 7th Exodus the 20th chapter and 7th verse. Let's go to Leviticus 19 and look at verse 12. It says, and you shall not swear by my name falsely, neither shall you profane the name of your Almighty. I am the Master, Yahweh. So his name was definitely connected when it came to as far as swearing his name. Do you see this? When you would make a promise in his name and you don't fulfill it, do you realize that's profaning his name? His characteristics and his literal name. Do you understand? If you were to make a vow in his name and you break that vow, you're in trouble. He's going to hold you. He doesn't play about his name. He doesn't play about his characteristics. He does not play about his authority. Understand that in all contexts. Thank you, my Father, my King. Now, let's look at something interesting. Let's go to Matthew, the 5th chapter. Let's see here. Actually, thank you, my Father, my King. Go to Deuteronomy. Go back to the, not yet, not to Matthew yet, my family. Go to Deuteronomy. Let's look at something quick. Go to Deuteronomy. Thank you, my Father, my King, for the correction, because we all have to see this. Deuteronomy, the 23rd chapter. This is why it's important. It was very important in the ancient kingdom of Yahshua when it came to making vows. Listen, verse 23. Excuse me. Deuteronomy chapter 23, starting at verse 21. Listen carefully, my family. It says here, when you shall vow a vow unto the Master Yahweh, your Almighty, you shall not slack to pay it. For the Master Yahweh, your Almighty, will surely require it of you, and it would be sin in you. Do you see that? This is a warning now. You got people out here, they say things like, you know, when they get in trouble, they say, well, I swear to God. This is what people say. And many of us who, you know, our Father King, before he revealed his name to us, many of us, some of us even said these words, I swear. I promise to God. You know, people would speak loosely. But during the ancient world, this was very dangerous. Our Heavenly Father holds it very personally when you speak forth his name in a promise or a vow and you do not fulfill the obligation. So be warned. Listen, my brothers and sisters. Verse 23, it says, but, verse 22, I'm sorry. Thank you, my Father, my King, for the correction. Verse 22, but if you shall forbear to vow, it shall be no sin in you. You see this? This is the safety zone. See, making a vow, in certain cases, it was optional, meaning that there were times where you did not even have to lock yourself into a vow. Do you see this? This is a safe zone. Listen now. It says, verse 23, that which is gone out of your lips, you shall keep and perform, even a free will offering, according as you has vowed unto the Master Yahweh your Almighty, which you have promised with your mouth. That's powerful. That is powerful. So it's saying that our ancestors and even us, we're to learn from this, that when you are making a promise, you better fulfill it. And if it's not led to speak, don't speak it. Because our Heavenly Father is going to lock you into what you said. Do you understand? There were certain conditions where, when you read the Torah, there were certain instances where please God and Father, my King, if there was a daughter or if it was a woman who made a vow, and if it was an issue, the father could null it. It can be void. So there were certain instances where the man or the head of the household, based upon the vow, if he was not pleased with it, it can be annulled or void. You can read about that in the Torah. So, but what I'm led to say to you is, it's safer not to even lock yourself in a vow if you know that you are not going to be able to be faithful to it. Because our Heavenly Father is going to take it personal. Now let's go to our Master Yahushua. Go to Matthew the 5th chapter. And we're going to see why our King said this utterance. Because when we read in Deuteronomy, the 23rd chapter, he's going to expound on the very thing that we just read. Matthew, the 5th chapter. And look at verse 33. He says, again, you have heard that it have been said by them of old time, you shall not forswear yourself, but shall perform unto the Master Yahuwah your oaths. You see this? Now watch what he says now. He says, but I say unto you. So he's getting ready. He's not changing it. He's getting ready to expound on it. He says, but I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is the Almighty's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Neither shall you swear by your head, because you cannot make one hair white or black. But let your communication be yes, yes, no, no. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. Why did our king say that? Why did he say, just let your communication be yes, yes, no, no? He was giving them an expounding of it. And to prevent them from being destroyed, he gave this wisdom. It was not against the law. It was the righteousness of it. Go back to Deuteronomy 23rd chapter. Look at this. Let's just look at it. Because some of you might think he taught against it. Go back to Deuteronomy the 23rd chapter and look at verse 21 again. It says, when you shall vow a vow unto the Master Yahuwah your Almighty, you shall not slack to pay it. For the Master Yahuwah your Almighty will surely require it of you, and it would be sin in you. So what our Master is doing, he's going back to what we just read just now. And he's giving and expounding on why not to avoid any sin in you. He's going to, please guide my Master so I speak it correctly. He's going to expound on the unnecessary things that can happen to you if you do not pay the vow. So he says here, keep your hand in Deuteronomy. Go back to Matthew, the 5th chapter. Just keep your hand there so we can look at it closely. Look at verse 33 again. He says, again you have heard that it had been said by them of old time, you shall not forswear yourself, but shall perform unto the Master Yahuwah your oaths. Verse 34, but I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is the Almighty's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Neither shall you swear by your head, because you cannot make one hair white or black. But let your communication be yes, yes, no, no. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. Go back to Deuteronomy 23rd chapter. Why did he say that? Verse 22. But if, so that's conditional, but if you shall forbear to vow, it shall be no sin in you. See how wise our king was? When it says, if you shall forbear, that means if you do not vow. It's no sin to you if you don't make a vow. That's the safe zone. Look at verse 23. That which is gone out of your lips you shall keep and perform, even a free will offering, according as you has vowed unto the Master Yahuwah your Almighty, which you have promised with your mouth. In other words, you're going to pay. When you make a vow to him in his name, you're going to pay it one way or another. So what our king is doing is letting you know. He's not saying not to vow. He's just saying, listen. He's not saying not to make a vow, not to ever make a vow to our Heavenly Father. But what he is expounding on is saying, swear not at all. Let your communication be yes, yes, no, no. Don't go into the extremities of, thank you, my Father, my King. Don't go into the extremities of making a vow to him when you know you're not going to keep it. Thank you, my Father, my King. Let's see something interesting and why this is important. I want all of you, those of you who know the story of our ancestor, one of our ancestors, Jephthah, or it's pronounced Jephthah in English, but his name Jephthah. He was a very strong man now, a warrior. let's go into the book of Judges. Let's see why this is very dangerous. Some people have certain opinions on this passage of the account of the scriptures, but let's look at it quickly. We're still on the precept, you will not swear falsely. Go to Judges, the 11th chapter. And this has something to do with our ancestor Jephthah, because he made a vow to our Heavenly Father regarding the people of Yasrel. Many of you can read the account for yourself as you're led. You can read the whole chapter of Judges, the 11th chapter. Very important. But for now, let's look at the 29th, start at the 29th verse. It says here, then the spirit of the Master Yahuwah came upon Jephthah, and he passed over Gilead and Manasseh, and passed over Mitzpah in Gilead. And from Mitzpah of Gilead he passed over into the children of Ammon. Listen. And Jephthah vowed a vow unto the Master Yahuwah, and said, listen carefully, and said, if you shall without fail deliver the children of Ammon into my hands, then it shall be that whatsoever cometh forth of the doors of my house to meet me, when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, shall surely be the Master Yahuwah's, and I will offer it up for a burnt offering. Now this is something now. Listen carefully. So he made a vow now to our Heavenly Father, that if our Heavenly Father give him victory in the battle, that whatever comes out of the, when he returns, what the first thing that comes out of his home, he's going to give it to our Heavenly Father. Listen closely. It says, verse 32, so Jephthah passed over unto the children of Ammon to fight against them. Listen carefully now. And the Master Yahuwah delivered them into his hands. So we see our Heavenly Father heard that vow. He heard what he said, and he gave him victory. Now let's listen what happens. Verse 33, and he smote, or he struck them from Aroer, even till you come to Minith, even 20 cities, and into the plain of the vineyards, with a very great slaughter. This the children of Ammon were subdued before the children of Yasrel. So he gave them victory. Now let's see what happens. Verse 34, and Jephthah came to Mitzpah unto his house. Now let's stop for a moment. Remember when he vowed, he said to our Heavenly Father, whatever comes forth out of my house, I'm going to give it to you. If you give me victory. This is what he said. Master Yahuwah, if you give me victory, the first thing that come out of my house, I'm going to give it to you. Look what happens. Verse 34 again. And Jephthah came to Mitzpah unto his house. And behold, his daughter came out to meet him with timbrels and with dances. And she was his only child. Beside her, he had neither son nor daughter. So this is his only child now. She's coming out with instruments of music and she's dancing. She's celebrating the fact that her father has come back victorious. Now look what happens. And it came to pass when he saw her that he rent his clothes. So see, our ancestors in the ancient times, they would rent their clothes. When they was in anguish, they would rent their clothes. He knew the vow that he had made. So when he saw his only daughter come out, he already knew. Because of what he spoke to the Master Yahuwah, he got to pay that vow now. Listen, it says, and it came to pass when he saw her that he rent his clothes and said, alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low, and you are one of them that trouble me. For I have opened my mouth unto the Master Yahuwah, and I cannot go back. And she said unto him, my father, if you have opened your mouth. Now I admire this woman. We all need to remember this woman. It does not give her name as far as the account, as far as in this account. But we should remember this woman. It says here, listen. And she said unto him, my father, if you have opened your mouth unto the Master Yahuwah, do to me according to what which have proceeded out of your mouth. For as much as the Master Yahuwah have taken vengeance for you of your enemies, even the children of Ammon. So this woman had so much integrity. She was telling her father, she was basically telling him, whatever you vowed to the Master Yahuwah concerning me, let it be done. Because he's giving you victory. Now listen here. Verse 37, and she said unto her father, let this thing be done for me. Let me alone 2 months, or leave me alone 2 months, that I may go up and down unto the mountains and bewail my virginity, I and my fellows. And he said, go, and he sent her away for 2 months. And she went with her companions and bewailed her virginity upon the mountains. And it came to pass at the end of 2 months that she returned unto her father, who did with her according to his vow, which he had vowed. And she knew no man. And it was a custom in Yasrael, that the daughters of Yasrael went yearly to lament the daughter of Yaphtha, the Gileadite, 4 days in a year. Now you have, let this be addressed, as our Father King allow me to address it. You have some Bible translations that says that she was killed. Because when you read verse 31, it mentions, as far as how it's read, that he will offer her as a burnt offering. And then you have some translations where it's translated differently, meaning that he would give her over to be a virgin perpetually. So you have 2 different viewpoints within the scholarly world as far as what actually happened to her. But here's the point. The point is this, is that, because you can have people that can debate these issues, but here's the valid point of the matter, is that he vowed to give her to our Heavenly Father. Do you see this? This is what he vowed to do. And when he saw her come out, he was grieved because he knew he had to pay that vow. Do you see this? So I'm not here. My Father has not had me to come to you to try to debate any of you all regarding this matter. The point is that he had to give her to our Heavenly Father. Now, those of you, if you want to debate back and forth and argue back and forth regarding if this woman was killed and burnt literally, or if she was a virgin perpetually, it's for, if you all want to come in that spirit, then that's on you. The point that our Father, our King, is revealing is the fact that he had to give her to him as far as the vow being paid. And he wasn't happy about it, regardless of the outcome. So what I'm led to say to you is that we have to be careful. When we speak with our mouth, those of you who made promises, be warned. I love you. Continue to grow. In the name of our Father, in the name of our King.